Hello, podcast listeners. This is the Ed Franklin No Limits podcast. My name is Ed Franklin. Um, this is the last podcast I'll do this year. It's Christmas, excuse me, it's New Year's Eve, about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and a lot of you won't see this until next week, or hopefully tomorrow, or hopefully tonight, maybe if you're really bored. But I'm excited. I mean, I've done this podcast almost a whole year now. We started in January or February, so moving right along. I don't have enough listeners. I'm working on that with marketing and other things. And of course, you guys can always share this if you know somebody that would be interested in seeing my podcast. And it's called No Limits for a couple of reasons. One, because I know that any limitations you have in your life, you can get over. And the other thing is there's no limits on what we can talk about here. So I want to first of all thank you all for the people that listen on a regular basis. I really appreciate it. You have no idea how much that means to me. I'm growing this thing, and it's going to get bigger. And as soon as I can dial in the content that people want, and that I can get better at doing the podcast, it's going to get bigger and bigger. And it's going to be because of people like you that listen and appreciate and share and do all those things. If you would like to be a guest on my podcast in 2022, the email is edfranklin.nolimits@gmail.com. Or if you know somebody that would be a good guest, edfranklin.nolimits@gmail.com. So like normal, I'm just going to go off the cuff today. A lot has gone on this year, and I'm not going to spend a ton of time on the whole year. And like, I got stuff in the mirror there. Okay. I mean, it was different, obviously, for a lot of different reasons. The last 2 years have been different for a lot of reasons. But, when you look back in life, and I'm just 59 and a half a couple of days ago, and I look back in my life, every year has its challenges. Every year has its successes, and different things happen. And, we just deal with it in our own ways. And some people have been super successful this year. Some people not so much. Some people have been hurt by COVID. Some people it's been an advantage for their business or their life or whatever. We've lost some people because of COVID, and maybe they had underlying issues, but COVID pushed them over, or, there's no doubt that there's science behind this and that it's real and that we have to be cautious. So I guess my message to you is to continue to stay safe and, just follow the guidelines. I don't think anyone's trying to control us, but I'm not political, and that's your business, whatever you think. A couple of weeks ago, I promised that I would talk about, raising kids. I thought, I'm good at that. I mean, I guess I'm good at it. I have good kids, and I did it for a long time, still doing it to this day. And it's been such a major part of my life, more so than any career or anything else. Raising kids, having a family has been my life, and it's what I've enjoyed over the years. And I'll do as much as I can not to get emotional during this or get choked up. But I want to talk about the year coming up, the past year a little bit, and I want to talk about kids. But, as I was sitting around the other day thinking, after I promised that I would do this thing about raising 7 daughters and a son, and, there's a lot of funny things about it. There's a lot of emotional highs and emotional lows about raising kids. And I thought, it was just such a happy time of my life. Having my children at home when they were young and as teenagers or whatever, we just didn't have a lot of problems with our kids. And did I raise them perfect? No, there's no perfect parent out there. Are they all doing awesome? They're all doing great. They're all in the place they need to be, and they'll work. If they have issues, they'll work those issues out themselves. I don't not get involved in my kids' lives on a parent level any longer, because they're adults and they can do what they want. They're smart enough to know ups and downs of making good decisions and bad decisions, and I let them do that on their own. I'm always there to catch them or hug them or encourage them or do whatever I have to do for them. But like most of the parents I know, we did the best we can with the information we had. And I miss that day-to-day interaction with my kids. I obviously don't have it now. They're adults. I have 14 grandchildren. So I do have interaction with a couple of my grandchildren on a regular basis because I'm raising them. But for the most part, I just enjoyed that part of my life so much. And besides for the, hey, I have 8 kids and oh, are you a Mormon or a Catholic, or, what causes that, right? Or did you have a TV, or all those bullshit, stupid fucking jokes I used to hear about having a lot of kids. And I don't know if you know this, but I have 6 children from 2 relationships, 5 daughters and a son, and my wife has 2 daughters. And so I have 2 stepdaughters, but never, since I've met those girls, since they became my stepdaughters, have I ever thought of them as stepdaughters. They're my daughters. As far as I'm concerned, they're blood. And I've treated them equally to my other kids. So yes, we have 8 kids. Yes, we are Catholic. Yes, we know what causes it. And yes, we have a couple TVs. So there's your fucking answers to all your wise asses. You just don't, I understand that people don't have that many kids these days. And we did. That's just the way it was. We had kids in sports. I remember one time we had 5 daughters in 4 different sports, and we were running all over the place, just like these parents are running all over the place with their kids, soccer and football and baseball and all those things. We did all those things, and we enjoyed that. We met some awesome people along the way, other parents that were doing the same thing we were doing. I just enjoyed, sitting down with my kids at dinner, and, we talked a lot. We had a lot of deep conversations for an hour after dinner or whatever, before we cleaned up. And I drove kids to school for 13 years to Poway High School. And that drive was a special drive every day. Was it perfect every day? No one's got a perfect life. But man, when I look back, I miss that, 15 or 20 minutes sitting in traffic with those kids, laughing our asses off. I mean, we've laughed way more than we've cried in the last, 35 years of being a parent. And just because I could not work out a relationship with my, 2 ex-wives, doesn't mean the kids weren't loved and, by both parents. And, they did the best they did. I did the best I could. So I guess I could probably come up with some things if I was doing public speaking and I wanted to, relate something in business or in life about raising those kids and some funny things that happen. I could do that. I just don't feel like, when I was sitting down thinking about this podcast, that I don't want to do that. I just thought that we had some tragic things happen. But we had so much wonderful, so many wonderful days, so many great memories of my kids being around, and they come around as much as they can now. Some of them are out of state now, but I talk to all my kids on a regular basis and love them, more than anything. It was what I wanted to do in my life, is what my wife wanted to do in life. And now we're facing, what we want to do in life. Right? So the last 2 years have been, we've had some devastating tragedies and we've had some positive changes. And this year did not quite turn out exactly as we thought it might, which is life. I mean, does it ever turn out the way you want? It's funny when somebody passes away in your life that you're close to. I've lost some really good friends this year. I've lost some family members. People are like, it's never a good time. Well, no shit. It's never a good time for anything bad to happen. I just know that it's not happening to me. It's just happening because I have a life and I live, and things just happen. So, as you're entering into 2022, we're setting goals. We're saying, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to do this more. And we're going to, stay in contact with this person more and that person more. It's great to think that. And it can be done. There's no doubt about it. I hope that if you're one of those people that are making New Year's resolutions and you're going to get in shape in 2022 and you're going to eat better, I hope you do that. I mean, I am in your corner, man. If you ever want to email me because you're feeling like you can't do it, you email me. I'll talk you into doing it. But it's tough. It's tough to change. It's tough to deal with all the shit that goes on a regular basis. But listen, look at how we're evolving. I mean, here I am, a year into this podcast. It had some good content, had some content you probably didn't care about. I've had some good guests, had some guests that were okay. I mean, I love all my guests. I really appreciate the chance that they even, the opportunity to even do it for me. And we all have our different things we talk about, whether it's business or life or what have you. And I think that's what I want this podcast to be. on my LinkedIn profile, I put that it's an organic podcast, right? It's starting from zero and just going whatever we talk about, right? I don't like to get into politics or religion, but at times we've touched on those things. It's, that's my business. It's your business. It's what you want to do. If I ever got into after, I'll say it this way, after COVID started in 2020, I never knew I had so many friends that were political scientists and that were doctors and things like that aren't doctors or political scientists. And they have their opinion from whatever way they got their opinion when they were growing up or things. I have particular friends that I will talk to these things, talk about these things with, that I know there's not going to be any hard feelings when we're done. We have our own opinions and we respect each other. Most of my friends are not like that. Most of my friends would probably delete me from ever being a friend if I really told them what I feel about them or about what their thoughts are. I can tell you on that note, what I've learned about people over the last 2 years is I've learned a lot of bad things about people. I'm one of those people that I hope I'm always there for you if you need something, whether it's moving or whatever you need. If you need money, I'll give you what I have. I would give you the shirt off my back if it fits you. That's fine. I would do that. Really don't have a problem. I'm not that in love with the things that I have. If you needed something, I would do anything. I'll drive and help you. I'll do whatever I have to do. I found out that a lot of people won't do that. When you're needing something, a lot of people will ignore you or disengage and not be there for you. And that was probably the worst thing this year and last year that I've learned about my friends, the people I thought were my friends, the organizations I thought were backing me up. And I won't get into them or call them out personally, but there's a couple of organizations that I was involved with that I put a lot of work into, a lot of hours in, and I feel like they just, left me hanging out to dry. And that's all right. I mean, karma's a bitch. That's on them. It's not on me. I still did what I did, and I'd still do what I do. If I had to help them, I would still help them. I'd be a little bit more reluctant, but I would help them because I just don't leave people hanging out there to dry. But they left me. But that's okay. That's on them. Like I said, it's going to be, when God's talking to you at the end, they're going to have to answer for what they did, and I'll answer for what I did. So as we look to this new year, as you're sitting there this weekend, or you're sitting there next week when you hear this podcast, what's up? I mean, what are you going to do? What is going to happen next year that's going to be different from this year? Is nothing going to change? Does it need to change? First of all, sometimes we're looking at making changes and we don't really need them, or we want to get in better shape, but we're already in really good shape. Sometimes that's okay. We want to make more money, but we already make a lot of money. Maybe we're just happy staying at that level. It's okay. It's all in your head, not in anybody else's, what you got to do next year. If you want to get healthier because you want to stay around longer, I'm all for that. I'm all for anything that you want to do. It's funny with this new generation. I think that a lot of younger people think that being free means you can do anything you want. And we know that's not true. Being free is being in a country where, yes, you can be anything you want and do anything you want within some guidelines. We have to have laws. We have to have some kind of organization to follow. So I think that's where, I think you can be anything you want, but you gotta be realistic a little bit too. And I think our younger generation is missing that. As I look forward to this new year, I'm, like I said, I'm 59 and a half, but I am not ready to sit down. I am, in fact, as energetic, as motivated as I've ever been. And I want to make a difference in life. I'm getting involved with, I've talked about a couple of the organizations that I'm getting involved with. And I just committed to getting involved with another organization that helps youth become entrepreneurs. And I'll tell you more about that later. But I want to be out there to help people, and I want to be productive, and I want to be relevant. And I want to be all those things. And I can't imagine that I don't have that opportunity if I want it bad enough. So I just don't think I'll ever retire. It's not something I have a vision for. I like being active. I like getting out there and doing whatever we want to do. But really, like I said, as you sit down and think of those things of what you're going to do, and I'm not going to go on this diatribe and this motivational bullshit stuff. I just want to, anything I can help with, I'm here to help you with. And I just want you to make sure you really want it, because sometimes we look at things and we say, well, that's what I really want to be. And we start getting focused on that. And the next thing you know, you're going, man, this is a lot of work. I didn't know it was this much work, and I don't really want it this bad. And that's okay too. Stop doing it. Do something else. But if you want something badly and you want to go for it, shit, I'm all behind you, doing whatever you got to do to get forward. And I know I'm rambling on this podcast. It's the last one of the year. I have my beverage, and this isn't water today. Actually, if I would have had about 3 of these, this would be a more fun podcast, but I'm not going to do that. I've set some goals and not accomplished them. And I usually, it's funny when people talk about failure, and I think I brought this up before. I've never really failed at anything that I really wanted bad enough. I've always figured out a way to get through and do it. Failure to me is it's kind of hard to fail, because a lot of times if you set a goal and you go to do it and it doesn't get done, did you fail or did you give up? Because there's a difference. It's one thing to fail completely and just be out of what you were doing, or did you just if you just lost interest in it? Because that happens to me sometimes. I just lose interest in, like, I'm not really into it that much. I didn't, once you learned about it, maybe it wasn't as important as you thought, or as cool as you thought, or as brilliant as you thought. And that's okay. To me, that's really not a failure. That's kind of you deciding to give up. And is that failure when you give up? No, that's quitting. That's the difference to me. If you're trying out there and you're doing some things, you're open, you got your eyes open to opportunities, you're not failing. I mean, I've met so many people talk about the successes of this year. Because of this podcast, I've learned a lot about technology. I've learned a lot about lighting, a lot about cameras and sound and things like that. I'll be taking this podcast on the road for a few events that are coming up, one starting on January 15th. And I've met some really interesting people, some people that I never would have met without this podcast. Without Zoom, I met some people on Zoom that from other parts of the country that I never would have met if it wasn't for COVID or this podcast or technology. I said something to somebody yesterday. I was on the phone. I was actually on a Zoom call with somebody, and I said, people that were getting Zoom fatigue, or they were saying they were tired of Zoom, you're out of your mind. This is the best technology since sliced bread. That's an old saying. A lot of you people won't even remember that. Because, here I can talk to anybody in the world real time, looking at their face, seeing their reactions. I don't know if they're wearing pants, don't really care, but I get to talk to them versus being on the phone or via email or whatever. This is great technology, and I want to use it as much as I can, because it's just awesome. COVID for an extrovert like me was hard to deal with. It's still hard to deal with, getting out and seeing people and calling on people for business or whatever. It's been very difficult for me to deal with that, not be able to see a lot of people on a regular basis, and frankly, be the center of attention and grab that microphone and do those things, that I really love to do. So, again, as you're looking at those things and you're getting ready to go out and achieve greatness this year, I'm seeing memes already come out on Facebook about it's going to be a better year. It's going to be a great year. Thank God 2021's over. So what are you going to do to change that, right? What are you going to do? What are you going to sit down and go, okay, I've decided I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to start doing this. My only advice about that is to write it down, write it down, kind of figure out why you want to do it. You might even want to get a yellow pad of paper, put a line down the middle of it, put pros and cons. I don't know, whatever way is best for you to get through and accomplish that. Listen, like I said, I'm here to help you. So as we wrap up this year, first of all, I want to wish you a Merry Christmas. I know I wasn't on, and we had a guest. My last podcast was a guest, Corinne Cavett, awesome chick. And here we are, the last day of the year in 2021. I've been through a lot of these, a lot of New Year's. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And, for the most part, I usually accomplish some of those things. And I don't know. My son asked me the other day, do I have any New Year's resolutions? And I don't know. I mean, I want to keep pushing on what I've been pushing on. I'm getting involved with some other companies and people, and we're going to use my podcast for some, communication, for some media. I like that part of it. So New Year's resolution, is anything going to be different? I mean, everything's got to be different tomorrow, right? I mean, I've always said that. It didn't matter. The year's changing. I've been saying that for the last 6 months. So it's got to be different tomorrow. You got to do something tomorrow that's going to help you move on forward, push forward. I mean, I'm a driver. I want to get out there and just push, and I'll always be like that. And that's just me. I don't mind being like that. I am who I am, and it's got to me where I'm at. So, kind of going back about raising those kids. We raised 8 kids in San Diego County, which is a feat in itself with expenses and everything like that. We were able to sit down about 90% of the time and have dinner with our kids every night. 90 to 95% of the time we ate together. We talked together. We saw them every day. We spent time with them. We went camping. We went surfing. We spent time with our kids. I know my kids very well. I know when they're not doing something they're supposed to. I know why. I know a lot about them, and it should be like that. I mean, we should be close enough to our kids. I wasn't a big advocate, or I wouldn't say advocate. I didn't push my kids a lot on education. I felt like they should find their space and find out what's best for them. Although some of my kids are very educated, it wasn't a requirement in our house. Let's say it that way. What was a requirement was not to give up and not to say I can't. My mom was big with that. If we said I can't do something, she was on our ass about that. She did not think that was funny, or and she was very encouraging. So look, I don't know, I could keep rambling on. I'll have a lot more content, a lot more guests, and a lot more listeners this coming up year. We're heading in some different directions with some different things. I'm going to do a lot more marketing. So I guess there's my New Year's resolution. I'm going to try to get this podcast going in a lot better directions. But what I cannot replace, what you guys can do for me, is share this podcast. If it's interesting, if it all gives you some kind of, motivation, or when you finish listening, you feel better, share it with your friends. Let them know I'm out there. I'm talking to you. I'm just trying to be as real as possible. I put myself out there this year on this podcast, became quite vulnerable, quite uncomfortably vulnerable at some point. And that was fine. I didn't mind doing that. If it can help somebody else out, if it can make somebody understand that, man, if Ed's scared of that, or if Ed was worried about that, then it's not that big a deal. Again, I'm no more special than any of you that are listening to me right now. I just want to communicate with you that I'm here to help. You have great value in life to your family and friends, and to the world, actually. I told them just before, 1 in 400 trillion chance that you were even born. And I appreciate you, your parents and friends and spouses and daughters and brothers and sons and sisters. They all appreciate you too. Maybe they don't talk to you all the time, but they appreciate it. So I guess I tell you that farewell for this year of 2021. I'll do a podcast next week, hopefully with more content. Well, not hopefully, it will have more content. I appreciate you. I appreciate you sharing my podcast. I say Merry Christmas to you and Happy New Year, and cheers as we come into the new year. Please be safe out there. I know most of you are so smart that you won't be out tonight. Not that it's a bad thing, but if you do, take Uber, take something else. Stay safe. The new year always is a renewal. It's a new time to change some things, to make some commitments, to tell those people you love them that you don't tell enough, to connect with that person you haven't connected with in a while. So I'd love to meet you someday if I don't know you. And please share my podcast. It's edfranklin.nolimits. It's on Spotify, Apple, YouTube. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you go there. And I say Happy New Year to you. And I will see you on the other side of this year.